I went on a mission to repair this 100-year-old number 1A Pocket Kodak, and this is what it looks like now. Isn't that beautiful? This is how it went. It was my father's, and before that it was his father's, as far as I can tell. It's an autographic. It takes, see if you can see that, number A116 film, so autographic film, which means that there's this little window here that you could open and then you could write on the back of the film for each exposure. And there was a red window right here because it was only slow black and white film at the time that you could see the exposure number through. So you would wind the exposure on and you'd see the number come up on the back of the film. There is one small problem with this camera. We'll open it up. And you can perhaps see that we have an issue. And the issue is this is meant to slide out. The standard is meant to slide out to the end here. And there's supposed to be a paper/leather bellows in between here that blocks out the light between the lens and the film plane. Unfortunately, that bellows is gone. In fact, here is what's left of it. I have attempted to get a new bellows, so what I'm going to try to do is put the new bellows on. So let's talk a little bit about that. While we're here, another bit of information. We'll talk about this, right? This camera. You can see number 1A Pocket Kodak, made in the US by Eastman Kodak Company, Rochester, New York. It has f-stops between about 7.9 and f45 over here. There is a shutter behind this very simple lens that, if I can show you, is a little bit sticky. So that's going to need some help. This is the viewfinder right here. You look down through the top of this and it shows you what's out here. So it's not showing you what actually hits the film. It's just giving you an approximation of what you're looking at. And you have shutter speeds up here, 1/50th, 1/25th, bulb, and time. So let's put it on 1/50th and see if that works. Can you see that? Yeah, it's stuck. So I'm going to have to clean the lens, clean and possibly relube the shutter, I'm not sure, and hopefully attach a new bellows to this standard and to the back of this standard box right here. It is supposed to mount. There's these little metal tabs right there, there. You can see 2 on each end up here, 3 on each side, that hold the back of the bellows in place against this box. And then the film runs behind this. So I need to unbend these little tabs and hopefully not break them in the process. And at the front end of the camera, they mount to this standard plate, which was riveted. Here, I'll unfasten this. Lens and shutter. It was riveted to this. And in order to get this off, to get proper measurements, I had to drill it. This is aluminum. These little rivets are brass, and this front standard is steel. So what I'm going to try to do is clean this and flatten it out, mount it on the new bellows, then mount this onto this standard. I'll have to get some little brass screws or little steel screws or something to fasten that on now. So I attempted learning how to make a bellows for this in order to replace it. And let me tell you, that is a lot harder than it looks. Here is an example bellows where I learned how to fold a bellows, basically mark it out, score the cardboard. This is from a file folder, like a manila file folder, just happens to be green. And then you fold it in the right ways and glue the edge together, and you can make a bellows. Now you can see this is not the right size, because I got really confused taking the measurements and trying to figure out how to turn that into a bellows that would expand to the right length and have the right dimensions at the back and at the front. So instead, I went on the internet, as we do these days, and I found a company. There's a company in England that does this sort of things, that makes custom bellows. I think it's called Custom Bellows UK. And I found one which I believe is in China, called Etone, and took the measurements and sent the measurements off to them, ordered a bellows from them. They asked for some additional measurements, which I took and sent on to them. And then they sent me a few weeks later, several weeks later, a new bellows. So this is what I got. And it appears, at first glance, I have not taken it out yet. I think there's a good chance it will actually fit, or at least can be made to fit. So my next part of this project is to figure out, how do I mount this in there? And I'm thinking I should probably mount this in here first, then pull it out and mount the front standard to it. That's probably going to be easier than having this assembled and then trying to put it on there. So my next step is to try to take this piece out at the back, which is where the back of the bellows locks in. So we'll try to do that. And after a significant amount of hassle, I have been able to get this apart. So what I ended up with was not those, but this, and this. So these are side cutters. They're actually for electronics, for cutting wires, and they wedge in, if you can see the tips, the way they wedge. I was able to get them underneath and twist a little bit that way to loosen it up very gently. And then when I got it far enough, I used these flat needle nose pliers to bend the tabs up. And that worked for all of the 6 on each side here and these 2 at this end. But then those 2 down in this corner, this one and this one, I could barely get. And I did actually scar the metal a little bit right there with these clippers. But I was able to lift it enough that I was able to get this tool underneath the tab, pry it up a little bit more, and then again use these flat needle nose pliers to lift it up. So I was lucky that I don't think any of these tabs are broken. I think they all bent up out of the way. So now I've got them all straightened out. I'm going to put my tools away. I will clean, this is the platen, I guess that's what you call it. It's a little metal ring that that the back of the bellows is glued to, and that then you place it in place, and then you crimp the tabs You sort of slide it in here and then crimp the tabs in place to hold it from the back, to hold it in. And then the cloth should compress enough to seal the light. So I'm going to clean this up and this up. And this is messy. The old Bellows is made of sort of a triple layer thing of cloth and paper. And there's a patent from Kodak for the construction of bellows, which I believe is the patent that applies to this. You can look them up. They're still available through uspto.gov or through patents.google.com. You can search patents there, and you can see their original drawings for these things. So now I'm going to see if isopropyl alcohol, 91%, will take the adhesive off of this. We may have to resort to physical violence. Pardon me if I'm making anybody nervous with the blade near my fingers. Don't try this at home. All right, I think I'll leave that like that and get some fine sandpaper. Now for the front standard. And that is that part. Let's unwrap this bellows and see how good a job they did. So did I measure it correctly, and did they make it correctly? That looks like it's pretty close. So this piece is going to go in there, and I got to glue the front piece to that. There's the back, which, so that goes in like that. That is a snug fit, but it looks like it fit. So then that'll mount inside the camera and get crimped in. Let's have a look at this. I think this is going to work. And I'm terrified. But I know the metal fits, so all right, I'm going to leave this for now. I'll stop here and we'll try again in a little bit. Well, I forgot to start recording, but here we go. I am bending tabs in very gently, and not all the way at first. I'm just getting it to hold. I started at the back side here, and then I made sure it was all in. That's in, that's in, that's in. That's in. This one's not in. Being careful not to bend this, because that's the film transport. I don't think I bent it. That's in, that's in, that's in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 1, 2. So this one's not very bent in. So I'm going to do that a little bit more gently. And I think that's now in place. Now I got to figure out how to fasten this onto there. So I got to take these out, and I'm going to have to find some bolts. Right there is where the rivets were. I measured the rivets, and they are about 1.7 millimeters in diameter. So I went looking for how can I fasten this thing together. And what I found, what I came up with was this. So these are M1.6 screws. They're a 1/4 inch long, and they are a 1.6 millimeter diameter with a 30.35 millimeter pitch thread. And I was able to get, the smallest quantity I was able to get was packets of 50 or something like that. Packets of 50 for the screws, and I don't know, was it 20 for the others? For the nuts, something like that. And if you put this through this hole, if I can find it, it is almost a perfect fit. Very close. It could be a tiny, tiny bit bigger, but hardly any. So I think this is going to work. The challenge now is to get the platen into the bellows, hold it in place long enough to get a hole through the cloth so that I can put the screws in. I'm going to put the screws in from the back and put the nut on the front, and then I can trim the screw off a little bit if I need to. I think I probably will. The challenge is, how do you get the platen to stay there? So what I have come up with is, here's the platen, which I have now stuck to a piece of paper, unfortunately. And I have this double-sided sticky tape, which is probably less than 1 millimeter thick and very sticky. So I have put it across here, and now I'm going to try to cut the rest of this off so that I've just got sticky around the edge, and then I will attempt to put it into the back of the bellows from the back. I changed my mind. I'm going to try the double-sided tape again. And now we're going to try to stick it back in again, where I've got a clear fold in the bellows. So let me pull these back this way and then find this edge right here, because I have a sharp corner on the fold. And we're going to fold this in so that full edge sticks. Safety first, put my blade away. Pull the rest of the backing off. Like that. Find the other fold on the other side so that I can get that piece stuck in there. So that's now stuck in there. That was not entirely the right way to do things, but now I'm just going to fold this in here. If I can get a sharp corner on the edge, that would be good. There's a corner. There's a corner. And then over here, I should be able to get one more, like that. Now I got to figure out how do I get this thing actually attached the way it's supposed to be, right there. And then I can trim up the cloth a little bit so that the lens will go through. So, step one. Very carefully poke a hole. We do this. just try screwing it in from that side. Now that I have a hole through which to screw it. I want to go until I feel threads on this outside. Is that going to work? It might. It's kind of going. Screw that all the way through there like that. Okay. Now I'm going to do the opposite corner. And there we go. We now have 4 screws poking through the front. So let's see if we can do the next thing, which is, I wonder if this will fit, to help me push this up into place. And it will. And then maybe I should put a screw on, a nut on one of them loosely so that we don't lose it. These nuts are so small you can't even feel them when you pick them up. There we go. And success. Now I just need to tighten all these up. And then we can see if we can put the lens back on. The lens. So the lens goes here, like that, and screws on from the back. But there's some cloth in the way right now. Okay. Try again. Tucked all the cloth out of the way of the threads. Put the locking ring there. Holding the nut from the back side. I'm going to try to screw this on from here. There we go. There we go. Now the question is, how far can I turn it before I have to hit the locking nut? And then I'm going to have to come and tighten it from the back side. So that the locking nut captures the lens assembly so that it doesn't turn. Look at that. Now, can I tighten this up a bit more with one of these? And that is about it, I think. So now I have the lens mounted and a new bellows. Let's put this camera back together. Here's the base of it. So we'll go ahead and stick this back the way it's supposed to be. So this is how it's supposed to look ultimately. You look down through this viewfinder to see what you're supposed to be seeing. You use this metered scale right here with the screw over here to focus. So close focus by screwing it out this way and reading the distance scale, and further focus by putting it back in, and so you can put it away. So that's looking pretty good, isn't it? Let's see, moment of truth, if this will actually fold back up. So we push the little lever right here to unclip it from the front. This can slide back in now. which it does. That's pretty cool. And you press these two. And it folds up. That is awesome. And then we open it back up again. Click. Pull this out until it latches. And it worked. That's awesome. So we'll call that a day for now. And fold it up. And that is this 1920s era Kodak 1A Kodak Pocket, or Pocket Kodak, 1A, number 1A Pocket Kodak. That's what it's called. And when I try, I'm going to probably put some tape over that, and I'll try some film in it with an adapter, and we'll give it a go. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope this has helped you with your mission to preserve family heirloom cameras. Take care.